Welcome back to Challenge of Our Time, the COVID-19 vaccine. If you thought manufacturing the vaccine was the hard part, you were not alone. But now that our collective attention has shifted to the distribution and the administration of the vaccine, that means there's a last mile challenge and there's a last inch challenge. We're going to begin to understand the complexity of this portion of the vaccine rollout. Let's see how things are shaping up in the capital of Louisiana. I'm joined by Sharon Weston Broome, the mayor of Baton Rouge. It's so great to be with you, Mayor. Thank you for joining us today. This has been a full day. I've learned so much about science and vaccines. What a remarkable time we're in. I mean, talking to the coolest people, and that includes you. But as you look at Baton Rouge, you had this, I'm going to read a tweet. I'm not following you, by the way. It says, the seriousness surrounding the coronavirus is real, especially now that there is a new and more contagious variant in Louisiana. If you have attended a mass event, the responsible thing to do at this point is to isolate yourself and seek a COVID-19 test in 5 to 7 days. So there's still fear out there. There's still challenges out there. How do you look at this question of the vaccine curve and health and hygienic standards kind of getting us back to a normality eventually?
Well, I remain very optimistic about the intersection of the vaccine with our ability to get back to some level of normalcy and health and well-being for our citizens, as well as our economy. Louisiana is receiving an allotment of 58,000 vaccines this week, and we're expecting to receive 67,000 next week. So that is music to our ears. It is certainly being rolled out by our State Department, Health Department. Our state, as you know, is currently in a phase 1, tier 1, a phase 1B, I should say, tier 1. And so the only groups that have been eligible are healthcare workers, our staff and residents at long-term care facilities, our EMS workers, people 70 and over, and those, as you know, who are in the healthcare space. So while we're very thankful that these groups have qualified to receive a vaccine, of course, we want to have enough to meet the demand. And my role, I see, is certainly encouraging our citizens, trying to dismantle any myths surrounding the vaccines. So when it's your turn to get the vaccine, you'll step up to the plate.
Well, it's fascinating. You know, President Biden the other day made a comment. I kind of enjoyed his sort of humor where he said, well, it's not really humor, it's kind of dark humor, where he said, look, if you're out there a mayor, in a town or a governor, a few days ago, you didn't know how many vaccines you were going to get. It just showed up. There was no communication. And he says, that's crazy. And he says, that's crazy. You can't operate that way. So he committed overnight. Jeff Zients and the other folks who are responsible said, we're going to communicate. We're going to tell you what's on the way. We're not going to store anymore. It's going to be just-in-time production, just-in-time distribution. So I don't know. You just knew your numbers, which means something must be going right.
Yes, we certainly have an open line of communication with our state health department, but I have to say I am very delighted that President Biden is certainly helping us navigate this pandemic. Municipalities in and of ourselves were not designed to navigate pandemics, so it has to be a collaborative effort with our state partners and with our federal partners. And certainly as the executive in chief, our president certainly is helping empower our local municipalities, certainly giving us an elevated level of confidence that not only is he concerned, but he's working to get the job done. So I'm very delighted that he has taken his authority and is exercising it to empower our local governments.
Mayor, what is the situation in Baton Rouge when it comes to PPE? Because we're going to be discussing that later in the program. And I've kind of looked at this, that there's now a ton of production of PPE, but you still see shortfalls out there. When you kind of look at it, you realize maybe there's some people hoarding. They're afraid of not getting it. But are you seeing in Baton Rouge the PPE being supplied, used, or do you still think there are problems?
Well, and here in Baton Rouge, I see that we don't have any problems presently with PPE. And we have certainly been working with partners all over the nation to make sure that we're secure with PPE. For example, I serve as the co-chair of the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative. And that's a group of mayors who all have cities or towns along the Mississippi River. And so we have been communicating, but more importantly, our organization has been providing PPE to other localities along the Mississippi River. So what am I saying? It's the partnerships that are making a difference. And these partnerships are indeed broad. So at the present time, we do not have a challenge with PPE, but we're always monitoring our PPE.
You know, one of the things, I have a place in rural Maryland. I have a place right in the middle of Washington, D.C., and I haven't talked to Mayor Bowser about this yet. But I can say in rural Maryland, some of the frontline emergency workers, police, firemen, fire persons, are not lining up. They're in front of all of us on getting. I haven't gotten the vaccine yet. I would love to, but I can't because I'm not in the appropriate place in the line yet. But I guess my question is, a lot of them, about 1/3, if I think I'm right, of them are getting them, and the others are waiting to see what happens. What's the situation in Baton Rouge? Are you finding your police, your EMTs, your first line responders lining up, or are you concerned that there's still a significant percentage of people holding out to wait to see how this goes?
Well, I have heard from our medical professionals that there are indeed some of our frontline medical essential workers who are on the front lines who are a little hesitant about the taking the vaccine. And many, of course, it's not the number, let me just say, that we would like to see. I'm hearing it from our hospitals that they want to see those numbers of healthcare professionals increase. And I believe the way that happens is the more you see leadership step up to the plate without any reluctancy, perhaps that will elevate the comfort level of many of our first responders and healthcare professionals. Look, we need them. They have been on the front lines. We applaud them. We love them. We want them to be safe and secure and healthy. So not only do we look for ambassadors within the medical profession and the healthcare professionals, but we look for those ambassadors outside to encourage our frontliners to go ahead and proceed and get the vaccination.
Mayor, just our final minute. I mean, tell me what's in your gut. You're on the front line of this yourself, and do you feel like we're moving into a good direction? Do you feel like we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, or do you think this is going to be dark for a while forward? Because I think as you set expectations, you can get people, a little hopeful too early. I'm just wondering where you are as you look at this. What does your gut tell you?
I remain hopeful, but I also remain steadfast in my goal to make sure that Baton Rouge and the capital region receives what we need to receive as it relates to vaccines, that we keep the lines fluid between our state partners and our federal partners. But I am optimistic. I maintain that optimism with some guardedness, but I do think that we can see the end of the tunnel. But what I want people to know, especially here, and I've been saying this message time and time again recently, we can't let up our guard. We have to continue our individual and collective mitigation efforts. That means that we have to wear a mask. It means that we have to wash our hands. It means that we have to continue to social distance. So doing our best individually to mitigate, along with the vaccine, I believe helps escort us to the end of that tunnel.
Well, Mayor, I tell everybody, I've been in the think tank and ideas world, journalism world for a while. And I always feel those of us in Washington, our job is to embarrass either bad ideas or put better ideas on the table. And mayors are great at that. Mayors are the coolest people I love talking to. I hope you'll come back. Mayor Sharon Weston Broome of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thanks for having me.